so what people are doing is they're trying to live a life in terms of like how they want to be seen,
Mhm.
rather than rather than the results they can create.
Mm.
Right? It's like everyone's kind of built in with this big old antenna
Yeah.
receiving data on where my social position is, right?
Right. Right.
And the one consistent I see with successful people is they just don't give a
Oh yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They make the systems around them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They design what they need because they don't make it about morality. They
Mm-hmm.
don't make it about social consideration. They make it about, we've got one life, people are suffering, I'm gonna have a family, right? I want to be a provider, and and I can't limit myself for all those responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? By being considered about my neighbors. And there's a very powerful phrase that I like to carry around all the time. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to double your success, you have to double your failure.
Oh yes.
That's just it.
Love
And I
this.
just
Love it. Love
I
it.
would
Yeah.
I wouldn't have learned what I needed to do because I had to learn what I shouldn't be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
that I still remember that call very, very clearly with
Mm-hmm.
the business owner, who's still a great guy. Like, good to see him. He helps so many people. But to get fired by him and him to tell me that,
Mm-hmm.
Lou, you will never close higher than 20%. I was like, damn, man,
God,
I'm gonna
never
show
say
you
that.
wrong.
Never, never say
I'm
that.
gonna show you. Yeah, man. And when you kind of understand like how human behavior kind of runs between those two things, this is when you can then start controlling things like identity. This is
Mm-hmm.
when you can control someone's certainty. This is when you can take someone from the realms of self-doubt, as mentioned, and into the realms of fear, engage that fear, ask them the questions that get them to move beyond it,
Mm-hmm.
for them to make a commitment, and then you're actually changing someone's life, which is
Mm-hmm.
again one of the most important things I find about sales.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwashed series. Today's guest is a trainer, and he trained over 6,000 people as the head trainer at seventh level and built 20 million upsell system, which is super cool. He's got huge numbers under his wings, I would say, and I'm super pumped to have him
The
here. Say again.
yeah, the right big numbers, just to point out, not the
All right,
wrong
yeah.
ones.
And so I'm super pumped to have him here. Welcome to the show, Levin in Lyon. Is that correct?
Lyon, but yeah,
Lyon.
fuck
All
it.
right.
We're there.
Amazing. All right. Very, very cool. So, brother, tell me and to like share, with us something like how did you get
Mm.
into entrepreneurship? How this whole journey started for you? How, um, was they like straight into entrepreneurship right from the young age, or it was like a type of journey to get in?
No, it's such a good question, man. Hey, great, really happy to be on here, by the way. So yeah, the actual like the catalyst to get on it was very social inspired, really.
Mm,
I had the right people. You know that Jim Rohn quote, you become the qualities of your five closest
oh
friends,
yeah,
right?
love
And
it. Yeah.
Hormozy talks about it a lot, but like for me, it was you become the qualities of the five people that challenge you every single day, right?
Hmm.
And so it kind of kicked off for me for COVID. COVID was a turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was
Pretty
in,
much same for me too. Yeah. Like just to go
right?
into that. Yeah, totally.
I was in private banking just prior to that. I'm
Mm,
from a French tax haven island originally. Um, and I thought I had life made, especially because the more you put in, the better results you got. And I was able to fly to, like Hong Kong before the umbrella revolution, where it kind of got shut down, Singapore, Dubai, where a lot of the clients were. But life wasn't good for many reasons because I was able to find that I could work like, 20-hour days because I had a substance abuse issue and I was
mm,
drinking too much too.
mhm.
Okay. And it was
Yeah.
killing me.
Yeah.
I was smiling, but it was killing me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the time I had I got a very limited but very good friend base today, and I still have the main ones, I would say. And 50% of my friends now, one of them is a guy called Josh Lyons, who's
Uh-huh.
a big influence on me, big,
Right.
big influence. We first met by our passion for very nice pens, which still runs through today. And Josh is actually from the same island, and it
Mm,
was it was COVID,
uh-huh.
right? March. Sorry, later into the year, actually, that's not fair to say. It was summer 2022. The streets were empty. right? And I was studying for one of my last exams, and
Hmm.
he comes walking down the sunset, and he can tell I'm just dead internally. He could see that I was doing well financially, but I
Right.
was dead internally. And he had just, at this point, he was already a raving success
Hmm.
with sales, and he made a suggestion, and I just spent all my money.
Hmm.
I spent more than I had at the time just to get my
Right.
start in it. I started off with Cole Gordon's Remote Closing Academy, and then from there, I just
Sorry
kind
to
of,
yeah, sorry to stop you. Like
yeah,
this is insane. Like you saying like you've been like in the industry like in that industry of money, wealth, basically. You've
mm,
been around that and then it comes like financial literacy and like what is going on? Like you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, 100%. Because I really like your title of your show, Brainwashed. Because the thing is, money is great. It
Right.
is, but it's not the reason what any of us do this. It's simply the escalator that gets us what we want,
Yeah.
right? And there is a bad way of earning money, it turns out, right? What really taught
Yeah.
me around that time was the fact that you can earn money, but there's always a trade. It's a bartering system. Money is nothing more. Like the original currency was
Mhm.
nothing more than like a representation of a value of time,
Yep.
right? And what I do now, how I help people, is to recognize the fact of, and this is something I had to learn for myself,
Hmm.
right? You can be earning money in a much more effective and efficient way that helps a larger community,
Right.
okay?
Yep.
Because I came from a point, the polar opposite, where I was trading my life for it, right?
Yeah.
It was parasitic, it was sycophantic, I was just siphoning my energies away. So yeah, the
Hmm.
brainwashing is real,
Hmm.
especially for that financial kind of culture, quite
Hmm.
frankly. So
Hmm.
the big thing for me was that turning point,
Right.
as I
Right.
say.
So how
Mm.
did you get from there to like sales and such? Because like, dude, you
Yeah.
have like insane results there with sales. Like you get into Jeremy's minor team basically, which is like super cool.
Mm.
Have you been there since the beginning of his
No,
career?
no,
Like
no,
how
no,
did you
no,
get? No,
no,
no.
no,
Okay.
no.
Yep. Go ahead.
I wasn't Gen 1, but I was close. Because I saw when I got into there, I got to I got to see some of the OGs still there, and I got a lot of training from
Right.
amazing people, right? What actually got me there was because as soon as I changed the lifestyle, as soon as I changed the job, you have to change the lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the champion before you become the champion,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
That kind of situation. So I actually flew to Cancun. I was like, I need to go somewhere completely different to me. So I went to
Mm-hmm.
Cancun,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like a very big change. And from there, I actually then lost my first sales job.
Mm-hmm.
I got fired. I got fired because
Very.
I wasn't closing well enough, which is very interesting now. Now I understand why that is, to
That's
be
the
fair.
journey, Brent. Like that's the journey, dude. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not people think that, everything's going to happen overnight. That's not how it is,
Mm.
and especially not in a business, and I don't think it's even in a life. There is a
No,
process of it. You need to go
100%.
through yeah, like this is so important because like even though now like we have a couple of like people that we've been talking recently and like literally if they don't get this point that like pretty much like business and all
Mm,
the systems that you are building for them are literally about testing because you don't know the numbers, right? You have to first see test your skills, test your or the system or whatever, everything
mm,
around yourself, like literally whatever you want to build.
yeah,
First attempt is always test, like literally you
100%.
never know.
And I think who writes about this really well is Tim Grover in his
Mm-hmm.
second book, Winning,
Mm-hmm.
because and it's in I think it's chapter 3, where it's just about understanding the game is about failure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very powerful phrase that I like to carry around all the time. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to double your success, you have to double your failure.
Oh yes.
That's just it.
Love
And I
this. Love
just
it. Love it. Yeah.
I wouldn't have learned what I needed to do because I had to learn what I shouldn't be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
that I still remember that call very, very clearly with
Mm-hmm.
the business owner. He's still a great guy. Like good to
Yeah.
see him. He helped so many people. But to get fired by him and him to tell me that,
Mm-hmm.
Lou, you will never close higher than 20%.
Ha ha
I
ha
was like,
ha.
damn, man,
God,
I'm gonna
never
show
say
you
that.
wrong.
Never, never say
I'm gonna
that.
show you. Yeah, man. So I just let fire under me. After that, the other big thing is that you got to build your connections. Now, one thing I would say to anyone who watches this, like it doesn't matter how small, how exclusive, how open, right? You need to
Mm,
leverage every single community you have because they could be your boss in the future, your business
mhm.
partner, your client,
Right.
right? So network as much as possible.
Oh.
But anyway, from that network, I was able to get a shot at seventh level. My
Uh-huh.
way through, I had to
Right.
cut my teeth like everyone else. At one point, it was dialing 4,000 times a day because we had some amazing systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's extremely valuable when you get an organization like that
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to get
Mm-hmm.
my
Yep.
10,000 hours in the spans of just 1 year
Mm-hmm.
because I was role playing. I was role playing clients who bought the SLO,
Mm-hmm.
their material, their low offer. I was able to role play three clients every hour,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that 11 hours, 6 days a week at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Right. I was also working in Norway, so my I was living in Norway at the time, so my hours were all over the place.
You've been
But
traveling quite a bit also. Like, do you love traveling and like going around?
not
Like, do
anymore.
you not anymore?
Not
What
anymore.
happened? What happened?
I'm actually trying to slow down,
Oh, really?
honestly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was one of those people who found value in
Mm-hmm.
being that Hemingway-esque kind of person, like traveling. And it
Mm-hmm.
was great. I got to meet amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
My body got to experience different pressures to become more robust.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend, even if someone thinks that it's not relevant for them, I recommend everyone should do it because you don't actually know what you want until you try it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I realized that, yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason why those people that I edify, right, and have
Mm-hmm.
very high, like epsilon kind of like achievements, they're in one place now because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's not about appearing sexy. It's about being efficient and
Mm-hmm.
effective. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that quadrant in my life now where I need a home base,
Mm-hmm. Right.
definitely.
Right. Makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
but
then
yeah, go ahead.
And then from there, seventh level, my way up. And this is another big lesson I'd say if you're asking in terms of like what gets people there, right? Because I was amongst a whole community of some of the best people in the world in terms of sales.
Of course.
Matt
Yeah,
Ryder,
that's
uh, Yash Yeager, um, incredible people, absolutely incredible people. I could name a lot of people, but it was at that time it was the Navy SEALs of sales, which
right.
is awesome,
Yep.
absolutely
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
But the thing is, I'll be real with you. I'm not one of those people that ever wanted to, and so honestly didn't have it in me because I never wanted to. I didn't want to do 100K a month, right? In terms of straight line closing, it just wasn't my thing. Wasn't the thing when I see myself, when I see that
Yep.
vision of what I could be, how I could help people. That's not what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted. And I think that's really important. You have to
Oh yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
So
Because
what did change?
otherwise,
Yeah, yeah. What did change? I'm really curious about that. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
how did
Because
you figure it out? Yeah.
first of all, I didn't. I thought there was something wrong with that, you know? I thought there was
Mm-hmm.
something wrong not wanting to be that person. And the thing is like high ticket closing and high ticket sales,
Mm-hmm.
like even now it's still quite Wild West, still relatively
Mm-hmm.
unregulated in the West, right? Even but like and I think it's evolved the evolution is getting more and more frequent in terms of its rapidity,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
However, even back then it was a very different beast as it is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was surrounded by nothing but closers and salespeople, and the people that were running those teams were nothing but closers and salespeople as well until all the
Yep.
way up,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden I was like, this is crazy. There must be organizations aren't made of a singular role. They just
Mm-hmm.
can't be. Otherwise, you would be key figure, but also key role vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Yes, we had a CFO, right? Yes, we had a CEO and all this kind of stuff, but but what else is there, right? And so I had a business coach at the time who's now retired,
Mm-hmm.
right? He does nothing but give his charitable time to the toughest prisoner systems in America.
Mm-hmm.
For all those people who no one else would talk to, he's a therapist and a
Mm-hmm.
business coach, and
Right.
he gives all his time. But I was one of his final clients.
Mm-hmm.
But he asked me never to mention his name after. It's just one of the NDA kind of sides of it. And one of the things he taught me was this, Llewellyn, if you're ever unsure what to do, you're just missing data. People can tell you it's about certainty and stuff like that. You're just missing data. So collect the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and he gave me this system, and I highly recommend everyone to try it because
Mm-hmm.
you should think of your boss. right?
Hmm.
Those above you
Yeah.
as a prospect, as a sales prospect,
Hmm.
right? You simply need to get them to go forward somewhere. And so he got me to do this. He said, go to the CEO or go whoever you feel comfortable with. At the
Hmm.
time, it was seventh level. It was Marco Cortesi, who's
Hmm.
no longer with him. He's now retired at the minute, as I understand it, doing some huge shows in a minute, and learned a lot from him as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I the advice was this: go to Marco, say, "Can I home?" Right, and
Say
ask
that
them
again.
two
Say that again.
questions. I'll ask for 5 minutes of their time,
Uh-huh.
right? And ask them these two questions. And it was so funny because when we jumped on the call, Marco thought I was here to complain about the company. So my manager was there at the time, but it wasn't. I simply said to Marco, I'm here to really upskill, and I don't want to be an employee. I
Hmm.
want to be an integral part to earn my position of leadership, right?
Hmm.
So, where do you want to go the next year? Where do you want to take this company over the next 12 months? And how can I make your life easier in achieving that?
Hmm.
Now, instead of him just seeing me as a sales representative, he saw me
Hmm.
as what? A problem solver,
Hmm.
right? And all of a sudden, we started having this real conversation. I was like, I'm speaking to the CEO of the leading sales at the time,
Yeah.
the leading sales training company in the world,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. That's cool.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And all of a sudden, he taught me the most important thing: find a problem. If no one else is doing it, find a problem, see if you can fix it. And all
Hmm.
of a sudden, I realized, right? And I was just, I was only part time. I wasn't even full time closing with this. I was still relatively an SDR. But
Hmm.
I noticed one thing with seventh level, that people that are running the community were just salespeople. And
Hmm.
salespeople only care about sales at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
And so what I said was, hang on a second, but there's no one actually motivating an upsell. There's no one actually looking into ascension here.
Yep.
And in the space of 4 weeks, we were able to take the upsell system, which was just like something that happened now and then. No one recorded the data. We took it from zero to 100,000 a month within 4 weeks,
Uh-huh.
right? And we took there was a four-tier system at seventh level, right? And we were able to get that on par, on scale within the first, I believe it was in 3 to 6 months, because we're still finishing off some of the layers. But we were able to get that of a revenue creation of 20 million, right, over the next 5 years, which
Right.
was
Right. Is that
pretty
was
great.
the beginning of you figuring out that like upsell system?
Hmm.
Right.
That's it. And it was to
Hmm.
recognize the fact that you can't. The system is this. It was back in the day, right, when salespeople were running communities. And I also got trained by the people that ran the Tony Robbins and the Russell Brunson group at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because we literally just brought them in for the community structure there. But the original plan strategy for community
Hmm.
and upsells was to keep the prospect confused, right? And when they feel really, really, really confused, sell them the next level, because that's where they are. I was like, you can't keep doing that, especially because there's four levels. At
Yeah.
one point, they're going to catch you. They're going to catch you out, right?
Yeah.
So then I just kind of like envisioned this idea. Hang on a second, what if we just ask these people what their goals are? What if we
Hmm.
just ask them what their goals are and get them to really register it? Like, what would that mean to you? What would that look like? Right? And then we always made this comment, and we never no one actually rises to the highest expectation of themselves, they fall to the lowest,
Yeah.
right? So what's your lowest expectation, and how do we keep raising your expectation? It was never about
Hmm.
the goals, it was the expectation. And as soon as we started doing that, people started to dream bigger. As soon as you dream bigger, and I don't know
Hmm.
if you agree with this, Adam,
Go ahead. Yeah.
but I think one of the biggest issues a lot of people have isn't if they have goals. You'll arrive at a goal whether you want to
Hmm.
or not. The
Hmm.
biggest issue is that they don't actually know how to set high enough goals
Hmm.
so that when you shoot at it, you aim at a moderate level,
Uh-huh.
right?
That's really interesting.
Everyone's trying to be
Yeah.
safe. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big,
Yeah.
big, big part about collective brainwashing.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. 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 Totally. Totally. Like people are programmed to literally like target low. Like
Hmm.
since like from like right from the beginning. Or even don't have any goals basically. The only like or like they are already giving you goals that you should target. Like
Hmm.
literally, this is your goal is to get a job, be employed, serve for 50
Yeah.
years, and then retire. And that's maybe like if you're gonna make enough money, you can like start living some type of,
Yeah. And
life,
hopefully,
hopefully. Yeah.
hopefully your mortgage is paid off.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully.
hopefully.
Yeah. Because I remember when I started all of this, when I got into the industry, the UK, for example, had an average credit card limit of about £200, so about
Hmm.
245 US dollars. Could you imagine if the US had that as their average? The economy wouldn't survive. The
No,
economy
yeah.
wouldn't thrive as it is. So that don't rock the boat mentality. I think that's nothing against my culture, right? I'm very grateful for where I
Yeah.
came from,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, like I see the issues, right? The issues that is going through the social structure right now, the constriction it has, like
Hmm.
the lack of security. Instead of like digging, as this is what Tim Grover talks about again. Instead of leaning into fear, they're leaning back because of self-doubt,
Yeah. Yeah.
and fear is there for winning. Self-doubt is there to tell you you can't do it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, I find it very poisonous. I find it very toxic. And I think one of the most important things we can do in this industry, whether people choose to stay it or not, is just to bet on yourself
Hmm.
for the first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, now I would love to like go a little bit deeper into the topic of like why do you think the whole system, or why you believe that the whole system, when it comes to
Mhm.
like this programming and like everything about it, like literally how they set this whole life pretty much for us, what is wrong there?
Mm.
And
Well,
how you would change it if it would be in your power?
first of all, I want to jump on the word wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I personally believe there's any right or wrong. It's just con and pro.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
No, no, but I know what you're saying though,
yeah, yeah.
because we base a lot of our culture on ethics and morality, right? So when you say wrong, can you give me an example of what you mean?
Well, the way basically how most people like, not most people. Okay, let's put it into this uh angle. Basically, since you are born, the way that your parents and everybody literally teach you and shape you and teachers and everything
Mm-hmm.
what is set it up for you right from the beginning is literally make you to be stuck, uninformed,
Mm.
without any goals, like literally like just fit into that box and stay there because that's how we can control you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's such a good question, honestly, especially to ask for Brit. All right. I like to think, quite frankly, that the Eastern European cultures are a lot better to be there
Hmm.
these days, quite frankly. So Prague has a lot of great entrepreneurial spirit
Hmm.
happening that's not happening in the UK. But but yeah, so why is it happening? Because
Hmm.
their parents were
Hmm.
taught the same, right? And then you ask yourself, why were their parents taught? Because their parents were the same, and why an extra level is because this was a culture of this is the greatest generation, which it was,
Hmm. Hmm.
due to the fact that they were rendered by generations of war,
Hmm.
right? We've had war slow down, which is the reason to keep stable,
Hmm.
right? But at consequence of that, I feel the individual is lost. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
like the no one actually wants a mess. No one wants a fuss,
Hmm.
right? So what people are doing is they're trying to live a life in terms of like how they want to be seen
Hmm.
rather than the results they can create,
Hmm.
right? It's like everyone's kind of built in with this big old antenna
Yeah.
receiving data on where my social position is. All right.
Right. Right.
And the one consistent I see with successful people is they just don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They 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 make they make the systems around them.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They design what they need because they don't make it about morality. They
Mm-hmm.
don't make it about social consideration. They make it about
Yep.
we've got one life, people are suffering, I'm gonna have a family, right? I want to be a provider, and I can't limit myself for all those responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? By being considered about my neighbors,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Brainwashing itself, it's happens. The social one that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about has happened because people have deluded themselves to think that they're doing the right thing. But as I
Mm-hmm.
say, it's just cons and pros. And
Mm-hmm.
many people are just so focused on the advantages of being very like undertoned
Most of
from
the
the very
people, they
beginning.
don't even own your life, kind of, I would say. Even like they blame
Mm,
others instead of taking responsibility for their lives. Like humans are basically designed to be problem solver right from the beginning. Like we are
mm,
like problem solvers, and the whole system, in my opinion, is basically designed to like to cloud or like shadow those skills that we basically are given right from our, from basically our, like when we are born, and like literally just l- use like just literally just follow what somebody else
mm.
prepared for us,
Agreed.
how,
I think that's so interesting because one of the things that what I really am interested in, like as a passion, is like anthropology, around the psychology of like social behavior,
hmm
right? It's what makes me a good coach, just to be fair.
hmm
And I'm a trained therapist, so like I really dig into this stuff,
yeah, yeah,
right? But I think one thing that the human species, the Homo genus, has been good at this whole time,
hmm
just to relate it to this point, right,
hmm
is technology.
hmm right,
I wouldn't be opposed to making the James Lovelock argument from his books, The
yeah,
Anthropocene,
yeah,
which was a case of we're actually humans. The human species aren't the dominant species on this planet. Like gut bacteria could be seen as it, or in my opinion, if technology had like an actual representation as a species, it's simply wearing us. And I say that because we almost go to the technology that's surrounded by our community and our tribe
hmm
as quickly today as back in the day when we used to see them playing with sticks and twine to make arrowheads,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Except the arrows now, the weapons we use to defend ourselves, is social rights and
hmm
social justices,
hmm
which is again like a moral point of don't mess around with your neighbor. They
hmm
might not like a loud noise. They might
hmm
not like you like actually asking for what you want,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think that that's what's happening.
hmm
We have not just survived, but we have thrived as a species because
hmm
we've seen what our tribe does, copy it, replicate it, and expand it.
hmm
But we're not fighting saber-toothed tigers. We're not chasing mammoths anymore,
hmm
right? We're not even having wars anymore
Yep.
in that sense. Instead, so we're still looking for the tools. The
hmm
tools now, though, are ones of social justice, as I
hmm
say.
That's really interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Can you go a little bit deeper on that topic? Because I would love to like, see your point of view on that, and like if you can
Sure.
expand on it also, because like this is not usual conversation. I love studying human psychology because like,
Yeah, yeah.
dude, this is so important, and it's you would be surprised, but like when I started entrepreneurship, I didn't really like pay attention to human psychology, but then when I figured it out like on along the way that like literally human psychology is like the key to, success when
Yeah.
it comes to sales and everything, like literally, I started diving deeper into that, and like, yeah, would love to hear that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's really important when we look at human psychology and how its behaviors in the industry. I think sales is so cool. It's so cool for this reason because it's the biggest arena and playground and petri dish of social behaviors. That's why I find it
Uh-huh.
amazing.
Right.
It's literally to help someone to overcome their hesitancies. That's
Uh-huh.
just sales,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's to help
Mm-hmm.
the person make the best decision for them too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so And what I do as a therapist is I really rely on simple
Hmm.
things. Right?
Yeah.
I rely on the disc profiling system. So you have a very simple
Well, if
matrix.
if it's not as simple, so you can explain it to somebody like even like 5 years, no, 10 years old kid,
Yeah,
basically, you don't even understand it really like
exactly.
properly, right? So I completely get it because I'm trying to simplify things all the time, like as
Mm,
make it as simple as possible so I can like literally easily explain it to somebody or like even for
hmm
me because I'm like I'm super visual type of person, so I have to everything see on the whiteboard, for example, or just draw it out
hmm
to actually understand that. But yeah, anyway, continue
No, I love
because like
that.
there is
I know
like there, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I love that point because like so many leaders and so many people that we edify say the same thing, and
Hmm.
there's a reason. There's a reason for it, right? Because I feel like so many people get into this industry also for the wrong reason. They get
Hmm.
into it because of the self-help books and like
Hmm.
the traveling and all that kind of stuff. And what they do is they dedicate an hour every single day to I'm going to journal. I'm going to go onto a journal train, and then they're just like riding up a storm. They're just riding up a storm, right? And then you look at it, and like, yeah, it's well written. It's the same thing ChatGPT might type up for us, right? If you had a ghostwriter. But I tell you what, I've I really treasure, as I mentioned, those who I consider very close friends because
Hmm.
I remember just not too long ago, someone looked at my journal and they were like, Louis, that's just bullshit. What are you doing? Like, it's all about intention.
Right.
Intention is the
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
not description. All right. So I love what you just said.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, simplicity in terms of social behaviors. Right.
Hmm.
So I think what's really important is also to kind of like have like the experiment of like when you have like little various elements involved, like variables. So like a sterile environment, and then you have like big variables in how you control that. And I'll
Hmm.
give you an example from two different pages of
Yep.
time, right? So you have, I think one of the most interesting examples of like what we did as a species was about
Hmm.
15,000 years ago, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, humanity, Homo genus, they arrived in America,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
The way they did that by popular belief, and this must have happened post Pangea when like the Earth had separated, right?
Hmm.
But the popular belief is, and they found evidence for it, so it's actually pretty damn established, is the fact that humans just simply walked there. They
Hmm.
walked from the tundra over the frozen sea because 15,000 years ago was the last ice age, and they landed in America. But the question is why? Why did they do that?
Hmm.
Right? And the belief is this: they bred their way through, which is to say that they walked onto the ice, they found there was woolly mammoths there, which was their dominant territory, and
Hmm.
then they killed them, ate them, based, and then they saw more, killed, based, moved on, moved on, moved on, moved on. Now, the
Hmm.
interesting thing about this study, even though, because there must have been multiple generations
Hmm.
that went across that frozen ocean, there must have been multiple
Oh
generations.
yeah.
But the interesting thing is that the technology stayed the same,
Hmm.
right? And it was the same technology that was found in northern Canada, right? In remnants.
Hmm.
That's to say, in a sterile environment,
Hmm.
right, where it's pure ice and there's no other nothing, no other decorations, no other trail of treats,
Yeah.
right? It all stayed the same, and that's humanity to it, right?
Hmm.
When we look around for the tools, right? If it's a petri dish that is completely sterile, we stay the same.
Hmm.
That's what we do, right? And we
Hmm.
survive to do it. That's why we've
Hmm.
survived so well.
That's so
Take a
good.
right?
Yeah.
Take
Love
a
it. Yeah.
modern example. I think the best example of an environment where we have so much variables that it's basically radioactive
Hmm.
is today in universities, right?
Yeah.
My word. I mean, I love Americans. I love the diversity, but I wouldn't raise my kids in America right now, right? Because it's such a wild place because one of the things you have to
Yeah.
be as a parent is you have to be practical and a provider, right? And I think there's too many variables, right? And you look at universities and these are people across modern education, right? And I'm not just talking about America, by the way, I'm talking about UK as well. I'm talking about West. Um, but you see these adolescents going into young adults with nothing to do but learn,
Hmm.
right? Nothing, and they have access to the best technologies in the world,
Hmm.
right? They could be designing, they could with the help of AI, with coding, they could be creating a business that within their education they could retire off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what is the dominant? what is the cream that's rising to the top? Social revolution,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
People
Yeah.
finding things
Mm-hmm.
to complain about and to debate it and to become partisan, to be
Mm-hmm.
completely
Yeah.
polarized
Yeah.
from one
Yeah.
another. It's insane to me. Do you think
Right.
that would have happened on the frozen ice example?
No.
No. The only way they survived was replication. So, but the reason why it's happening, in my opinion, is because people are just looking for, again for the tool. They're looking for the
Mm-hmm.
thing in their tribe. But the tribe at university and college
Mm-hmm.
is social.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
social tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people are finding these things that they commit to. And when you kind of understand like how human behavior kind of runs between those two things, this is when you can then start controlling things like identity. This is
Mm-hmm.
when you can control someone's certainty. This
Yeah.
is when you can take someone from the realms of self-doubt, as mentioned, and into the realms of fear, engage that fear, ask them the questions that get them to move beyond it,
Mm-hmm.
for them to make a commitment, and then you're actually changing someone's life, which is
Mm-hmm.
again one of the most important things I find about sales.
It's
Sales
so
as a culture
amazing,
these
like
days.
how you actually take how you discover by discovering this basically it
Mm,
even help you to like become a better salesperson because like I see you're passionate about this type of topic
mm,
so much, and I love to sing this because like this is probably who you supposed to be in your life, and this is like uh I don't know, would you
love
do
that.
something else than what you do now? Like literally.
I maybe I don't know, right? Because I think that's such an interesting phrase. Who you're meant to be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
There's a phrase that our parents used to have an awful lot around because this is the thing people did.
yeah.
There's a book in everyone,
Uh-huh.
right? The idea that anyone could write an amazing book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's such a great phrase exactly to that in terms of where you end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I see it is this. Again, we're the survivors of a race, a species that could walk across a frozen ocean, survive in any climate, right? Even our skin pigmentation changes to
Mm-hmm.
adapt,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're all the same species, which I
Yeah,
love about us,
yeah.
right? We're born with this in us, these tools,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's not a case, in my opinion, of getting better. Never has been when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to finding a job or leadership and stuff like that. It's a case of getting it's a case of getting less worse each day,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like if you like and the whole analogy with the book as well is that people could write like a masterpiece today
Mm-hmm.
or make a masterpiece podcast. The issue is it's those thousand other books that
Mm-hmm.
trying to get in. So would I be doing something else? It might have a different job title. It
Right.
might do. However, pure communication,
Uh-huh.
being able to make connections
Yeah.
between various things that have been existing since history, prehistory, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to do that and to help people understand how to use that and to get self-affirmation. I
That's
mean, if there
awesome.
was,
That's
I mean,
awesome. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
rose by any other name kind of thing,
Yeah.
like I'd just
Yeah.
be doing that.
This is very, very cool. Oh, okay. I never like this is
You enjoying
insane.
yourself?
I really like this is super cool, dude. And thank you
Good
so
man.
much for sharing this on this show because this is like this is super cool. Also, I have a question because you
Mhm.
basically stopped me or like add a little bit of context when it comes to like there is nothing about like wrong or right. Tell
Yeah,
me about this. I want to hear that
sure.
also. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think when people get stuck in morality, they just get stuck
Hmm.
because you're trying to you're trying to base a justification for something that's happened or to do something off of morality,
Hmm.
and morality is interpretive. That's
Hmm.
the issue, right? You basically you're basically trying to fly a kite
Hmm.
um, um, underground. Like that's how logically it seems ridiculous to me,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So that's the first thing. And second thing is this, like as soon as you, and that's coming from an internal place, that's you internalizing morality, right? But like if you can go anywhere in the world and like base your opinion and like say something based off
Hmm.
what you think is right, but then someone else will tell you it's wrong because of what I believe. Does that then change your morality because
No.
to other
Yeah.
people,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, it could because morality in a very formative way
It's
is
very, very
simply
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the majority. It's the
Yeah.
opinion of the majority of
Hmm.
what we should do. So
Yeah.
if you then simply have an
If you
experiment, a
think
thought
about it,
experiment,
yeah. If you think
if
about
you
it,
drag
basic,
them,
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you think about it, basically, it's all of those things. If you assume they are right or wrong, it's literally made up in your head. Basically, it's
yeah,
like your beliefs, your belief system, what you believe that is like because like pretty much everything around like everything what we may think of is literally
mm,
made up. You
exactly,
right.
100%, right? Or and even this conversation, right? Like the original thought experiment, brain inside a jar. Like, what do I even have really palpably for me to tell me
Hmm.
that this is real? And this is why, by the way, I was just talking to a close friend
Hmm.
who's reading Thousand Faces of the Hero by
Oh, I
Campbell,
did.
the, the
I will
architect
check
behind
that. But yeah,
the
I will
hero's
check that.
journey. You see it in everything. Dan
Okay.
Harmon, who's like a big
Okay.
story writer, like he made some of the most popular shows on TV now. He bases an awful lot of his plots on that.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
I say that because yeah, like morality at a fundamental level is just doesn't make sense. Because again, if you just it you're totally right. It's based on your mind,
Yeah.
but it's also based on the collective mind, right? So
Hmm.
if you spend your whole life basing yourself on morality, and I was also raised in a religious boarding school, right?
Right.
So like the idea of like the
I get it.
canonized myth is a big
Yeah.
thing for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
you know too, right? And like but like just play that through. So you're basing your morality on what everyone else is thinking because that's what you've been taught and that's what you think now, right?
yeah.
Okay, well what if I take you and put you in a different majority
Hmm.
where the sky is brown,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
we actually get reincarnated into dogs or something, right? Keep the cycle going. Does that then make your morality shift because it's now the majority? Or
Right.
do you stay a minority? Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Here's the other thing as well. I think the most important reason not to base it on right or wrong is because you need to you need to be able to do things competently, as in like how
Hmm.
you go forward. If you base it on morality, you're basically allowing a pre-selected answer to tell you what's right. But what everyone should do is weigh the cons and pros of something, right?
Hmm.
Like for example, like the reason why most people, especially when it comes to making a commitment, get stuck is because they're just thinking of either the pro or the con.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be able to develop the idea. You have to
Hmm.
go through the Socratic method. And actually, because I know we don't have much time, do you mind if I add something else?
Totally.
Great. Because that holistic thing is so important. And we didn't get a chance to mention this, but the new thing I'm getting into, because I run my own sales training. I run my own optimization system, I should say, because I do everything for private one-to-one clients,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what I'm but I'm at that, and I love working with them. It's a very exclusive group, and I love working with them. But what I'm getting into, who I'm consulting with now,
Uh-huh.
is the new sales training agency with Yash Yeager, Matt Ryder, and Andres Cortez and Austin. I'm sorry, Austin, I can't remember your
Hmm.
surname right now.
That's awesome.
Um, and it's going to be amazing because exactly what I'm talking about. Because this is we all have a very common aim with this.
Hmm.
We want to make the best sales training agency, and we want to make the last sales training agency, right? Because it's the mission is one of holistic support, which is what
Hmm.
gets missed. I've seen it over and over and over again. I've gone through I've gone through the different communities: Tony Robbins, Andy Elliott, Cole Gordon,
Hmm.
right? Taylor Welch, all these people, fine people. Eli Sanchez, Eli Wyatt. I've gone through all of them, fine people. But it's very designed for a certain angle,
Hmm.
right? Whereas what's being initiated,
Hmm.
the impact group, which I've never seen before, is they're trying to cover all quadrants that actually allow you to get so clear on
Right.
where you want to go. Financial goals, fitness goals, relationship goals,
Hmm.
mindsets, if you want to call it that,
Right.
right? But I like to think of it as mental fortitude,
All right.
right, and
Yep.
productivity,
Yep.
right? And there is no exactly what we're talking about, Adam, which is why I love this, right? There is no thing that's just taken as a superficial idea.
Uh-huh.
You say you want to earn 50K a month. We can help you do
Right.
that, right? Our top sales skills trainers made 100K each before they were 18, right, per month, right? We can do that. But what's behind that? Because at the end of the day, you can't just replicate what these people are doing.
Yep.
You have to understand with absolute clarity the vision of what's behind that. And I'm
Mhm.
so excited for that. That's going to be huge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So cool. Thank you so much for sharing that for sure. And so before I let you go, I want to ask you a last question,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be if this would be your last interview you would ever done, what
Mm-hmm.
would be your message to those people? Um, and how, like, yeah, what would be the message for those people
Morbid.
who's listening?
Right. Last message? God, what a great question. Well, if you're listening, it's because you've got time on your hand, right? If you're listening, it's because you're looking for answers. Um, what I'd say is this. Um, you're smart enough to work this out by yourself. You really are. Like the constant message that we've been trying to go through right here is that we are the children of, up until now known, the greatest species that has ever been seen.
Hmm.
We design worlds.
Yeah.
There's literally a word for it. It's
So
called the
amazing.
Anthropocene,
Wow. That was so
right?
good. That, yeah.
But and your biggest issue of trying to find like people should come to these shows, Adam, 100%. Like I have a therapist and I have a business coach, right?
Yep.
My very good friends, they perform as both of those as well, actually. But I have separate people. Why? Because I need to pay someone to be in a room for me to tell them and myself what I already know. I have to do that,
Yep.
right? Collect your data, go through this. But the most important, what separates great teachers isn't if we can teach you something. You're smart enough. You can learn something. What separates great teachers, and you need to be your own teacher for this reason.
Hmm.
What separates great teachers is how much time you avoid relearning
Hmm.
and rehearing something. So collect the data, but be smart about it. And you likely know the answer already. You're just looking for greater clarity in terms of communication. That's
Yep.
what I'd say.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Very, very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all the wisdom. This is just amazing. I love this conversation.
I appreciate you,
And
Adam.
and also, like, before I let you go, where people can find you, like where they to to join your program
Right.
or
This week, Cape Town. Come down. Um, yeah. So, if they wanted to have a conversation, again, like a very, very exclusive list kind of thing, like we generally only get space, when people complete the course. Like I'm trying to keep it a very certain way. No cookie cutter portals, all one to one. But if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook, Llewellyn Lyon, literally as it's spelled,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I will add that. I will add the informations
Appreciate that.
in the back.
Other than that, though, I think if people really want to get great help and if people want to explore this idea of like what could this world look like, and if you actually want to have my opinion, after training about up to about now 7,000 people the last 2 years across all industries, right? If you want to have like if you really want to meet some of the best trainers out there at the minute, people who are actually motivated not just to sell the cookie cutter portal. That's the other thing. There's a lot of sales out there at the minute. There's a lot of there's a lot of sales training companies that only sell sales training. They don't actually do sales training anymore,
Right.
right? If you actually want to go to some place that actually has the best trainers right now with the best intentions, Impact Team, Yash, Yash Jager, Matt Ryder, 100%. Like that's what I really, really recommend. Okay.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. And for everybody who's listening, if there's something in you, don't ignore it. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, you weren't born to follow the script. You weren't born to be free. Bye, everybody.